One question over here. So you did electronic engineering,
Yeah.
and you joined a fintech. So, and why did fintech? I mean, why was that decision?
It happened so that this company visited our campus,
Okay.
and I had some kind of inclination towards finance. World of finance. I was enamored by a lot of financial gurus who I was inspired, including Warren Buffett, and I was reading a lot of books back then.
Now you also did along with FRM, you did CQF.
Yes.
So my question is, why did you decide to go for it? What was the benefit that you got by doing this course?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because most of the people are a bit confused over what FRM offers and what CQF offers.
You have been taking interviews of people, young people who are coming into this role. What is that one or two question that you generally ask people? Okay, trying to judge that whether this is a good fit or not.
Yeah, so I'll just give you a background of what for me what hiring process means for me. So essentially, an interview process for me is like an exam which the candidate has created for himself, where the curriculum has been designed by him own.
In your journey, what has been your trajectory, and specifically the point that you started into a fintech or a consulting firm,
right?
Okay, and from the engineering college you moved into this quant side. So it is possible for a lot of other people also who might be in the industry, they can also start their journey into the quant side if they have the true interest. Hello guys, I hope everybody is doing good. Hi, this is Ganesh Nayak, and today in this podcast we're going to be entering into the world of quant model development, and Shreyas is going to help us to walk through that journey. Okay, so Shreyas, thank you very much for taking out time and talking to us. For the audience, if you can give a background of your journey till now, okay, where you started, what has been the education background, and then how did you move into different companies, into different roles?
Okay, first of all, thank you Ganesh for having me here. So I am an engineer by training. I graduated in 2016 from a college in Pune in electronics engineering. I started working with a small fintech company based out of Pune, catering to Asia Pacific banks. There, I was part of a team which was created to initially develop a module for building pricing modules. Pricing functions to price exotic derivative products. There I got a very intense understanding of how pricing models work and I got a chance to build those models from scratch.
But one question over here. So you did electronic engineering, and you joined a fintech. So, and why did fintech? I mean, why was that?
So
decision?
it happened so that this company visited our campus, and I had some kind of inclination towards finance. World of finance. I was enamored by a lot of financial gurus who I was inspired, including Warren Buffett, and I was reading a lot of books back then. So during the interview process, the CEO himself interviewed me, and it was a good interesting interaction with him. So I got selected into this company, where I got teamed up with a lot of interesting people coming from very reputed institutes. These people taught me a lot in terms of the basic financial understanding, and that paved a way for my career in a quant domain. So
you were working on derivatives, exotic derivatives, and the structured products. You were looking at the tech side of it.
Yeah, tech and the pricing functional, implementing the pricing functions for this to price this exotic derivatives. That was my primary role.
And you did FRM along with that?
Yes, I did my FRM during the stint of my first job. So I used to, I cracked the level 1 during my first job, studying over the weekends, and level 2 happened just when I switched to another company, and just after a few months, maybe 1 year after my graduation.
Okay, interesting. So the second role that you joined, what was the activity that you were doing?
So in the second role that I had was with one of the Fortune 500 companies, with one of the very reputed ones, which used to cater to largely EMEA and US banks, in terms of providing the risk engine softwares. So my work there was also in quant modeling space, but largely looking at it from technological implementation side. So that gave me an immense understanding of how big software companies work, what are the workflows that they follow to build the softwares, especially the quant softwares. So that understanding helped me a lot in my next few roles.
Okay, so in the second role, you were more into the risk-related software solutions for banks or international banks.
Yes. So essentially, we were building risk engine, which essentially means that we were building risk models, a suite of risk models that used to measure credit risk, market risk, and operational risk as well, and churn out reports and metrics that can be used by risk stakeholders, risk managers per se, to make their insights, to make the decisions better.
So till now, you are still in IT consulting.
I used to be in that industry, but then I eventually moved on to investment banking roles, where I transitioned into risk strats first, and then currently I'm working in front office pricing model kind of roles.
So what happens in risk stat role?
So the job of a risk strat is to build models that can quantify risk that is being taken by the trading desk.
Okay.
So the main job of risk strats is to ensure that we are measuring the risk very effectively and very accurately, so as to understand what can we lose given a bad day happens, hits us.
So VAR models.
Yeah, VAR models.
Shortfall models.
Exactly. So all these models, we need to maintain them, we need to build them for the evolving situations that can happen. And also we need to so one of the examples could be recently after COVID, the interest rates took a negative turn, right? So some of the models could not handle that. So the job of risk strats team is to ensure that we have capabilities in our model that can handle this kind of scenarios which are occurring in real world.
Okay, interesting, very good. So this team ideally sits in the risk division.
Yes.
Right. And from there you move towards model pricing and model development.
Yes.
And before this podcast, we were talking about the front office side and so can you give a brief on that?
Sure. So basically the bank in itself is divided into two or three lines of defense. The first line of defense, or the first line of business as they call it, is basically the one that takes on risk, because their job is to earn returns for the bank and make money for the bank. So what happens is, in this process of taking risk, there could be a chance that a trader might go beyond his risk appetite and take on certain risks that might not be beyond the risk appetite of a bank.
Right.
And what happens is, the quants who are supporting these traders, they are into, because they are the pay that the quants get is coming from the revenue that the traders generate. The interests are aligned in such a way that the risk has to be taken more and more, because more the risk, more the returns, right? So this creates a kind of situation where the things can go out of hand. Now, to keep a check on this first line of business, there is a second line of business which actually puts in controls and measures the risk that is generated out of the first line of business.
Okay.
And gives a realistic picture to the stakeholders of the bank as to what's happening in the first line of business, whether we are taking unwanted risk, and keeps some checks and balances. Now,
so just taking a pause over here. So you said that there's a quant team which is sitting with the frontline people, that means the traders, helping them to maximize their returns.
Yes.
Then there is one more, the middle office quant, or the back office quant, is primarily looking at how big risk is there and how the reporting is happening.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Okay, because we have read about this, but in the FRM and all of this curriculum, but this is very specific to the industry, right? What is happening in the industry right now. You also did, along with FRM, you did CQF.
Yes.
So my question is, why did you decide to go for it? What was the benefit that you got by doing this course?
I think that's a great question, because most of the people are a bit confused over what FRM offers and what CQF offers. One differentiating factor is that FRM gives you a broader spectrum of what happens within the sell side part of the financial world. Sell side is essentially the banking, banking side of the financial world. Buy side is again hedge funds and exactly. So FRM covers largely the sell side part of risk management part of the things. But it doesn't go deep into the quants.
Right.
But my primary interest was into getting deep into quants, and that is where I found CQF to be, a right option for me. Primarily because not just because the curriculum was good. The second thing that I liked about CQF was the professors are really good and you can interact with them. Plus, they have lifelong learning access, which you can use where you can use their resources even after the curriculum is like you're passed out of the cohort. And third thing is like the alumni effect of CQF is really, really good. So I would like to say that I landed my first investment banking job through the CQF meets.
Wow.
So it was really helpful for me. And CQF does really offer you hands-on learning in the sense that every module is accompanied by not just a theoretical practical learning, hands-on learning, where you're supposed to implement projects. That really helped me deepen my understanding.
Right. Now, so in your current role, okay, when you're looking at pricing and all, right? So in simple language, you're working with the front office, correct?
Yes.
And like you said, you're trying to maximize their return by also looking at the risk aspect of it.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to enter into this side, what are the core skills that he or she needs?
Yeah, I think again, so one of the things that we generally as a quants have seen, the people that I've worked with, they don't necessarily come from very rigid or rigorous mathematical or STEM background. Not necessarily, almost like majority of them do come from that, but there are certain people who might come from even arts background or historic BA in history background.
Wow,
I've seen those people. So the main thing that we see is essentially your first principles understanding, because what happens is most of us, we have access to these models, from a theoretical perspective through textbooks or some books or some videos here and there. But what happens is, think of it in this way. If you are given a car and you are a mechanical engineer just graduating out of the college, let's say you have a BMW car, you might have the understanding from a theoretical perspective of how the engine works and how the car might work. But let's say if you are supposed to create this or work on this BMW engine, or as a mechanic, you might have to use your first principles understanding to fix certain things, right? What could be wrong with this from a first principles understanding. So that is what we essentially need to have as a core quality as a quant, to understand what this model really essentially is in its core. So basically what essentially helps me as an engineer is the maths that I learned during my first 2 years of my engineering, the first principles understanding I have about the core principles of mathematics, the differential equations. I can easily extrapolate that and you apply that on a complex set of systems or models that haven't studied so far in my theory. So those are the skills that are really valued.
Wow, interesting. Now, somebody who wants to make a career into quant side, from which all different teams he can enter into this quant side or a model development side? Can you give us some trajectory areas that you can easily enter into the quant side?
I think one of the key things that you can do to enter into quant domain is to start with maybe a small firm or like small company where you get a end-to-end understanding of the entire workflow. So for me, in my case, when I started with my first job, I got a flavor of developing things from scratch, because the company was at a very nascent stage of developing this, and we were talking to all the stakeholders, which doesn't happen in big firms, to be honest. And that gave me a first principles understanding. My advice would be, take smaller steps. If you're not able to go directly to a big working in a big bank as a quant, start taking smaller steps. Go for, let's say, a local consultancy or regional consultancy firm. You can use your learnings from there, make a big move later, and then keep on evolving and learning, and then gradually you can come to a position where you can take on the responsibilities that a big firm might offer, and then you can excel. Because what happens is, generally, if you chew more than you can bite, it can be disastrous sometimes.
No, this is a very good point, because what happens is, everybody in the market, okay, I have students who have completed FRM and all, they look for, I want to get into a branded company or a very big org. Nothing wrong in that, but like you said, the exposure you're going to get into a smaller organization or a FinTech, where you learn so many different things, that the way, because your journey into the quant side started because of that.
Exactly.
And overall, when you've done FRM, when you've done CQF, what is the benefit that you get by doing these certifications in the industry? What is the amount of recognition that is there?
Right.
Can you just highlight some?
Sure. So one of the things that these certifications do offer is, like, they get your foot in the door and make you kind of a tad bit differentiated in your resume, as a signaling effect to the HR or the filtering layers that are there in most of the big banks. Apart from that, what I feel is, like, that happens in the initial days of your career. So in the initial days of your career, this certification would definitely give you an edge over the others. But what happens in later stages of your career is that the certifications take a back seat, and what's in your resume in terms of your projects, that takes a front seat. So those are the things that will be looked up by your potential hiring managers. And that is the thing, that those are the things where you need to focus on and make sure that there are good projects in your resume. And you should not completely rely on just the certifications over the trajectory of your career.
And you have been taking interviews of people, young people who are coming into this role. What is that one or two question that you generally ask people? Trying to judge that whether this is a good fit or not.
So I'll just give you a background of what for me what hiring process means for me. So essentially, an interview process for me is like an exam which the candidate has created for himself, where the curriculum has been designed by him own. So his resume is his curriculum. So if I'm asking something out of his resume to him, he should be able to answer that in and out. So if he is not able to answer something that he has written on his resume, that shows that he has not worked hard enough or like deep enough within that project. So that shows that he's not, how passionate he or she is about this job. So in my like whenever I take interviews, I generally focus on asking questions from the projects that he or she might have worked on, and I don't try to go beyond what is there in his resume, because I don't expect somebody to know everything that I know, because that's unfair, to be honest. So I focus on the projects that the candidate has worked on, and I try to go deep. I try to push him deep. I ask questions out of curiosity, and I test whether he has the very fundamental understanding of the problem that he has worked on. How deep he has gone, how deep he has explored. Because what happens in big banks is that you will be questioned for every single tiniest or the simplistic assumption that you make in your models. And that is where your first principle understanding will be tested to its core. And I generally hire those people who have this core understanding and who don't assume or like leave anything like unwanted out there. So he should be thorough with his own understanding.
And generally people who gets into the quant side, so what background? Engineering is one background that they can. Do you find chartered accountants coming into this? Do you find MBA finance coming into it? What is the pool?
So largely what I've seen is people who are passionate about building models, or like working in a field which is a bit abstract, right? Those kind of people gravitate towards these rules. So it can be that the background could be anything, as you mentioned, CA, MBAs. It's not necessary that we generally only hire from engineering or STEM background. So we look for the passion, because as glamorous as this world looks, it eventually, if you don't have the passion for working day in day out in this kind of abstract, where the things that you work with might not be as physical, in the sense like you cannot see these models, you cannot see how it's playing out in the real world. Of course, there is like implications of these models which are huge, but you don't get to see it in a physical form. So it becomes for the very difficult for you to be motivated to do this every day. And it's believe me, it's very difficult. So the glamour part of it kept aside, it's very difficult to keep on working on this models every day. So the passion for these models is something that we look for as a core quality in the candidates. Unless you have the passion, you won't be able to survive.
Right. And if what is that one advice that you have got in your career that has changed your career?
I think that's a great question. So one of the great advice that I had from my first mentors in my first company is to keep on learning every day. So every day for me is like what have I learned that was not with me yesterday. What is the new learning that I have today that wasn't with me yesterday? So that keeps on compounding. And because I started as an electronics engineering, I had no previous background with coding, nor neither with finance. So every single day I kept on learning tiny things over and over again, and kept on getting better at certain things, and focused a lot more on not on the wider picture, but let's say I had a short-term plan and a long-term plan. So every day I used to work on the short-term plan, one step at a time. That I think kept me focused and made me evolve over a period of time.
Wonderful, Shreyas. I mean, this conversation will give a lot of students clarity in terms of what happens in the quant side, what has been your journey, what has been your trajectory, and specifically the point that you started into a fintech or a consulting firm,
Right.
okay, and from the engineering college you moved into this quant side. So it is possible for a lot of other people also who might be in the industry, they can also start their journey into the quant side if they have the true interest.
True.
Right. So Shreyas, thank you very much for taking out time.
Thank you,
And
Ganesh. It's
talking to
always a
us.
pleasure.
Thank you.